Hello, it's good to be with you again at this time, and I'll be talking about systematic approach to proposal development on media communication advocacy. And essentially, there are three things I would like to do in this lecture. One, to talk about the essence of proposal development and its essential components. Secondly, to go into what I would term the science of effective proposal development. And finally, the practice of effective proposal development. So let's talk about the essence and essentials. There are many ways people think about proposal, but one of the easiest ways to think about a proposal is simply that it is like a marketing tool. It is a document that presents your case for action with the hope that in making that presentation, the person you are presenting to will get to understand what you want to do and will get convinced about the need to do those things. So you are pitching an idea, you are pitching a concept to somebody with the hope that that person would respond the way you want in terms of support. You can also call a proposal a detailed description of a series of activities that are aimed at solving a certain problem. So a proposal has a purpose in mind. Why are you developing this? Because the rationale for developing it will determine essentially what you do in terms of the components that you put in. And for many people who work in the grant field, they know that without a proposal, you can't get money from any funder. You can't. So proposal is at the heart of securing grants. You could have all the idea and all of that. But at the end of the day, if you are not able to articulate that in a good proposal, then you are not going to get the funding that you desire. And there are three ways I like to think about the function of proposal. Is that it's a communication tool. It makes it clear to whoever is listening to you what you want to do. Like I always tell people, when somebody comes to me and says, oh, I have this idea, I want to do this research, blah, 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 I'll tell them, go and write it down. Because writing makes it clear in your mind. And when I'm reading, I know exactly what you mean. Unlike if you just tell me, I may forget, I may misconstrue, and things like that. So it's a communication tool. Number two, it's a plan for action. In a proposal, you will have stated how you want to go about things. So it's not as if you finish step one and you're wondering in your head, what should I do next? No. You have detailed that I will do this first at this time, then I will do this next. So it's a plan about how you want to implement some specific action. It's also a contract. A couple of years back, one of my very early years in getting grants, I didn't understand this well enough. And it backfired in some ways. And I'll share one example with you. I remember having major funding that came from one of the UN agencies, and it's supposed to be an activity that will be cascaded nationally. And at that point in time, we did this work. We finished the first phase. We've done like training of trainers. We are now supposed to cascade nationally. And we submitted our report to the university because it has to be transmitted through the university. And then the workers went on strike for a long time. By the time they came back, the UN agency just canceled our contract because as far as they're concerned, we have failed to deliver. So in their mind, this is a contract, and they don't have room for excuses. Oh, somebody went on strike. Oh, somebody was not at work. Oh, somebody's mother died. That's not part of the problem. It's a contract. So the project proposal should be a detailed and direct manifestation of a design. And it's a way of projecting to the outside world what you really have in mind and how you plan to do it. And one of the good things about proposal development is that it's a skill that can be learned. But I can tell you, I have been writing proposals for more than 2 decades. I don't see myself as being perfect because every day you can see your skill being developed more and more. So it takes practice. And it takes determination and resilience, particularly if you are working in a real world where you have to compete for funds. The best in our environment, the best proposal developers that I know only get successful in about 1 in 5 times. Many other people, 1 in 10. So you can't be discouraged. It's something that you must do consistently. And it's always good to have somebody who can hold your hand, a teacher, a mentor. They can help you learn the road faster. And it's something that is not just used for this project, by the way, for this project that we're doing. It's something you can always use in various developmental activities, or even if you are doing a master's, you are doing a PhD, you are writing a paper. It's something that you can always use. So it's a useful skill to be able to know how to develop proposals. And in that dimension, people will always ask, what is it that constitutes the essential contents of a proposal? Different people, different funders may ask for different things, but there are clear things that cut across all proposals. Number one, a justification of a project or research. Why do you want to do this? If the funder is not convinced on the why, then it cannot fund it. So we must always make it very clear. It's like what the Bible says about somebody write down the plan so that whoever reads it can run with it. You must make it so clear the person is convinced, oh, this is what putting my money behind, or this is what supporting. Two, you must be able to show how you want to do it. So the good idea about, oh, this is a good idea, it's not good enough if you cannot talk about how you want to implement it and in a way that it makes sense. And lastly, what will you need to do it? You need money, you need material. All of that needs to be clearly stated in a proposal. And in terms of the format, what I always tell people is this. Different people will ask for different things. Don't innovate. If a funder says, I want ABC, don't go and give him AD because you think AD is better than ABC. So you must always strictly follow the agenda of the funder in terms of what he wants you to do. So because there is no universal format. I've told you the three major things the proposal must be able to do, but the format might differ depending on who the funder or the group that is funding it. Now, these are some of it, what we call the traditional sections of a proposal. What you usually will see, there'll be a cover letter, a title page, an abstract. There'll be a problem statement. There'll be which talk about what the problem is that you want to solve. What are the issues you want to address? Then the project description in terms of how you want to do the work. When you finish the work, how will you want the world to know? Your dissemination plan. There usually will be ethical considerations so that when you are doing this, you are not doing it in a way that will violate ethics, because that's a big issue in science. Then budget requests. Then they would like to know about your capability. Have you done a work like this before? Do you have the capacity to do it? Or are you going to be asking for 1 week grant without any experience? And in addition, there may be a few other things. If you are working with partners, you want to be sure you've talked to the partner. They have secured their support. So they ask for a letter of support. You may need to sign a memorandum of understanding with partners. And there could be other appendix, CVs and things like that that could throw a lot of light on your capacity to deliver on the proposal. But remember, please go along with what the funder asks, not what you think is traditionally the gold standard. There may be a few other things, sometimes a cover letter, and I always think that it's always good to have a nice title. If you look at many of the big grants in the world, they always have a title. Oh, a lovely title, GAS, Bloom, not something that sounds attractive, okay? Now, let's talk about the science of effective proposal development. This is what I always think about when you think about proposal development. I think in my head there is about 4 P's. One, a powerful idea and a potent science. Those two elements more or less constitute what I will call the science of it. Because a proposal is driven by the idea. And then there's a science, there's a methodology behind it. But outside that, you must also be able to present it in a persuasive way. And that's what I'll talk more around practice and the painstaking process. Because it's not only about being able to write it, but there's a process to go through in submission. And those are 2 elements that are important in terms of what we do for proposal. Okay, so let's talk about the idea. There are 3 C's of great ideas. What's an idea? How does it come? Or how do they come? One of the ways the idea comes is curiosity. Oh, I've seen this happen. Why is it not happening this way? The day that the apple fell was not the first day that apple will fall. But The scientist was curious not to ask himself question. Why do things fall? Why does it happen for? As a curiosity, why is it happening this way? Can we do it differently? So it's always important to be curious. Curiosity is very good. It enables you to ask questions. The critical thinking skill, the ability to reason through things in a systematic way, in a logical way, distinguishing fact from fiction, will help you to refine your curiosity into a clearly seated aim and courage to have unusual or crazy ideas. Other people may say, look, this doesn't make sense. No, you must be willing to believe in what you think and be willing to test it out there. That's what makes for good proposal development. And there are many ways to think about where can you get a topic. That's one of the first questions that strike mentees or students. Oh, how do I find a good topic? And there are natural ways, so to say, of finding out topics. Number one, what are the things that interest you? What have you come across that raise the question in your heart, in your mind? What have you read that has stimulated your interest? Those are almost like natural ways of finding a focus. And it's always good to consider a topic in an area you are familiar with. I always believe that reading is particularly essential to developing good proposals. And as you read, it's not just reading so that you can know, but to question, to raise questions in your mind, to raise hypotheses in your mind. The topic may have been looked at in one way, and you may ask yourself, why is it not being looked in a different way? That could be one way to find an answer. May have tried a method out. Somebody, if you know the story about how we got the current anti-malaria drug, you and his team went, they tried one method of extracting the active component. It didn't work. And talk about this assassinating plant. And they say, oh, let's try another way based on what they've read in literature. And then it works. So you can ask yourself, it has been done this way. Are there other ways that it can be done? Or it has been done among a population. Are there other ways it could be done among different populations? And who is being left out? Can we compare and things like that? So those kind of questions can help you in conceptualizing your topic. As I've said, reading is important. Read what other people have done. Do detailed literature search. Attend seminars, meetings, discuss with other people. Be open to question ideas. Be open to listen. Ask questions. Those are ways to generate ideas. And now, in terms of what I call potent science, here is what to know. The element of science is not necessarily natural. Let me explain what I mean. See, science talk about a systematic approach, a method. It doesn't just come naturally. Let me give you this short example. If I tell you, for example, that a particular university campus has been recording the number of accidents that happen on campus and the type of car involved, and then I tell you that, oh, they had 100 accidents that year. And out of the 100 accidents, 95 of them happened to a model of the car called V. Okay? And then I ask you the question, is it likely that V model of car will likely have more accidents than other model of car? A man who is not thinking scientifically will jump to yes. Say, oh, after all, 95 out of 100 happen to have involved Model V. So naturally, Model V has a higher rate. But somebody who understands some basic science, we ask questions. Say, look, how many Model V cars do you have on that campus? How many other cars do you have? So if you know, for example, that Model V cars, let's assume that Model V cars are like 100,000 on that campus. And then all other cars are about like 100. And then Model V cars 95 accidents in a year. The other one has 100 cars only, and they have 2. You know that in terms of rates, the other model have a higher rate. So that's why science is important, to understand how to look at things in a very methodological, systematic way. And as you think about that, there are 3 core elements that I think you must think in your head as to what questions proposal answer. The first one is the problem. What exactly is the problem we are trying to address? And there are 2 elements to think about. What are you proposing to address? What is the problem? And why is that what you're proposing? Out of all the problems in the world, why that particular problem? The second element is the process. Tells you how do you plan to do it? How exactly do you go around about it? And when do you want to do it? Those refer to the processes. And finally, the resources. How much is this going to cost? In time, in human resources, in financial resources, and other resources that might be important. So let's talk about the problem very quickly. Remember, I talked about the problem, the process, and the resources. The problem, what and why. So the what talks about your hypothesis, your research question, and your objectives. The why is expressed in what is called your problem statement. And or sometimes somebody has to write about the significance of the problem. And also in your related research, because you have searched other works, you've seen the gap. So that gives you the opportunity to begin to know where you might need to address. And like I've said, good literature review, is key to be able to define your research well. And so you want to start, for example, with your introduction and background. And you want to be able to tell the reader what your projects are about, why is it worth doing, why is it a good fit for the funding opportunity, and to clearly specify your objectives. And one way to think about that, to shape your thought about that, is that as you settle down to write, you are focused in your mind that you want to attract the interest of the reader. It's like going to fish and putting a worm on the hook. When the fish sees the hook, what you want to see is when you see the worm, what you want him to do is to grab the worm and then you get hooked. The same way you must think about working when you are working on research. You want to make your open sentence very stimulating so that when the person reads it, it's like, wow, what a good idea. I always like to throw numeric information because they throw more light and they can bring more impact. So I tell people, for example, when you think about maternal mortality rates, Nigeria has the highest maternal mortality ratio in the world, or highest maternal body, and then see the ratio in Nigeria is this, compared to this somewhere. You begin to get the person to understand better because they are talking about figures. Identify the research problem clearly and indicate why that problem is possible by citing the work of other people. So if you are just citing your own work, you are just writing around what you are thinking, then you are not able to convince people that you understand the bigger field and know where the gaps are. Number two is that you need to organize your work logically, like if a formula approach is one approach, to start with something bigger and then narrow down to something more concrete, much more deeper, and more connected with your topic. And try to also conclude well to give that kind of feeling to your reader that indeed you are wrapping this up as nicely as it should be done. All right. Some of the good elements, if you are looking about background section, some of the good points to look at is one, provide justification for what you are trying to do. Just those things you want to do this. Let people understand why it is important to do that. Two, I've said this earlier, identify the gap in the literature and state why is this important gap to address. Try and make your work well organized. I like the use of subheading. Subheading help people to stay on focus, to link one aspect of your work to the other one. And it's always good to tell a story logically. I always tell people, good teachers, like good writings, is like storytelling. When you think about the stories you have enjoyed, it's because when they tell the story, it's logical. I know as a child, as children, at least in our own time, I didn't go to school when people are talking about Jack and Jill, climb the mountain or climb those days it's about tortoise went to the market. If somebody tells you tortoise went to the market, you expect that, okay, next thing is what happened at the market. So, and then say, okay, this happened at the market. Then what happened after he left the market? So, when you write in a way that makes it sound like a story, it flows logically. It makes it very easy to follow, and you can engage your reader better than if you do it the other way. Let's talk for a moment on problem statement. As I've said to you, your proposal must be aimed at identifying a problem and addressing this. Usually, the problem statement will be towards the end of your introduction, and it declares the intent of your study. It takes it back from a general idea, when you've been talking about, to being able to focus on your own area where you want to work, and preferably use action words. You want to discover, you want to develop, you want to initiate, things like that. And talk about the kind of people or the participants decide, and that kind of broad information that help you to help you to understand where you are going to be working in this your proposal, with your proposal or your research or whatever you are doing. A couple of elements to think about in writing problem statement. Think about the context of the problem. Where is this happening? Why is it happening there? Provide some background. How big is the problem? If you don't address the problem, what's the consequence? If you're talking about adolescent, of course, if you don't address the issue of the adolescent development, then what will happen is there will be a lot more challenges in development society. A lot of young people that you have invested in as baby will now die as adolescent. Then they may become, there may be a lot of juvenile delinquency. They may get engaged in drugs. It will cost the economy a lot of money loss, and things like that. So you try to show the consequence to let people understand why it's important to deal with the problem. Identify the gap in knowledge, and then your proposed solution. So let's talk about the process. In terms of the process, it talks about the methodology. And methodology might differ based on the kind of work you're trying to do. If you're doing a work that is focused on advocacy, depending on who you're advocating to, the methodology will change based on where you are planning to do advocacy and things like that. So you must think through what you are trying to do so that your methodology and your objectives are going to work together. Some of the core things when you think about methodology, when we are thinking about research proposals, is one, or your research design. There are different kinds of research designs. What kind of design are you using? Is it longitudinal work? Is this cross-sectional and the rest of that? Who are you studying? The population, and how are you selecting those you study so that they reflect the truth of the bigger population, because you can't study everybody. So how will you go about your sampling? How will you collect the data in a way that will make things valid? Imagine, for example, somebody is doing a study about sexual behavior of young people, and he went to a school. Let's say he went to a religious school, a highly religious school, where there are a whole lot of restriction on going out and coming in. Where you can visit you, and then you collect that data and say, oh, now you know about sexual behavior of young people in that area. You can't say that, because you have not sampled the people you have chosen. You do not resemble the population. This was a very kind of special group. So that's why you must pay attention to the population and the sample. But let's assume that you even selected well, and you want to collect the information about the questionnaire, and the young person is sitting before you, and the mother is there, and you're asking her, oh, how many boyfriends do you have? When last did you have sex? But you get in secondary school, the mother sitting there. Even the girl is heavily involved in sexual matters. You think he will tell you the truth with the parents sitting down there? So our data collection method matters. And how we manage the data we collect also matters. And then the work plan tells us how you want to do it. And I've always said that ethical issues, you must not violate ethical issues. You must get people consent, for example, before you get them involved in the work. You cannot just show people's picture anyhow without getting their permission to use their picture and things like that. All of that are ethical issues. Even in advocacy, even in communication issues, just don't show people's picture because they are working on communication. And it's always important to have a plan for how you disseminate whatever your findings are. The procedure itself is really the art of the proposal. I always tell people that if your methodology is wrong, it doesn't matter what else you do, your work is wrong. So methodology takes more, you must understand the science of methodology, and it's not something you can understand just by one lecture, because there is a science behind everything. For example, if you say how you sample people will tell you there are 5, 6, 7 sampling methods. So if you don't know those methods, you won't be able to use them. So it's important to be able to understand the different procedures and to ground them in the science of the field. There are many materials around scientific approach to work. And these lectures about a systematic approach. It's not a science-based approach, in other words. So think about what the methodology guide, your study location, your study design, your population, your sampling method, data collection instrument and procedure, observation and measures, data analysis or data management, ethical approvals, time plan. All of that are important when you are thinking about your methodology. And see, this is an example of this, what we call a Gantt chart. How you show what you want to do. This is a project that's supposed to be done 12 weeks. I start by saying, look, we develop the instrument, we recruit the team, we train the team, and it shows progressively how you're going to do this project over the 12 weeks. This is another kind of project time scale or project timeline. So there are many ways you can show different things that you want to do in terms of time. Now, in terms of resources, I used to work in my earlier years. I used to work in an agency, but twice in my life, I have different periods. I've worked in agencies where we give funding to people who want to do research. I remember in the very first project I used to be involved in, people would come and ask me, how much budget should I propose so that you people can fund me? And I would laugh. I said, it's not about what you propose. It's not about the totality of the amount. It's about the reasonableness of what you propose vis-a-vis the work you want to do. Somebody might bring a proposal of 1,000, we'll fund it. Another bring a proposal of 10 naira, we don't fund it. Because it's not about the money, it's about getting return for the money. So even if your proposal, if your funding proposal is small, it doesn't make it automatic that will fund. It's about how realistic it is. So you must always think about making your budget realistic. And because it's about figures, it's about numbers, it's always good to cross-check. Have somebody else to cross-check them because you can get into trouble. A couple of years back, we responded to a call for proposals. And we have explained what we wanted to do. And then in the budgeting, we missed that a component. Then we won the grant. And then it was time to implement. And then we now realized, wow, we missed out this particular area. And it's an area where we are going to recruit people, we are going to fly them to other parts of the country. How are we going to cover this? So it became a challenge. But luckily, somehow, we went back to the agency, we explained, and they look at our paper and they're like, oh, this sounds like an honest mistake. So it's always good to have some other people review your budget so that they know how realistic you are, they know if you are missing anything and all of that. And like I've said earlier on, you must always follow the instruction of the funder or prospective funder. So many funders will tell you what they can cover and what they cannot cover. Some people will tell you, oh, we give you administrative charges of this percent. Some will say, no, that's not the percentage you are giving. You need to understand all that when you are making your budget. And beyond the figures of the budget is what is called budget justification, providing a reason why you want to spend the money that way. You want 10 people to go to Akwa Ibom and they stay there for 1 week. Why 1 week? Why not 1 day? So your budget justification make it clear, oh, this work needs 1 week to be done. This work needs 10 people to do it and things like that. So budget justification is important when you are thinking about your resources. And these are some of the things that you may cover. Depending on who the funder is, personnel, salary and benefits, consultants, you may have to engage a consultant and pay salary, equipment, supplies, you may have to deal with communications, you may have to prepare materials. For example, if you want to go and do some teaching or advocacy in a particular place, you may have to prepare advocacy material. Your travel, your rental facilities, evaluation of your project, other expenses, and that could be, and all of these are costs that are attributable to your work. But there could be also indirect costs. Those costs are not directly linked to the work you do. And all of that are important to capture in your budgets. And then let's talk about the practice. So we talk about science, what it takes to craft. The practice talk about how do you present this. Because if you have the best ideas and you know exactly what to do, but you don't know how to present it well, you can be sure that you won't get funding. Because presentation matters. On the other hand, if you know how to present well, to present it in a nice way, and yet your science is not correct, you end up again on the wrong path. So you need to balance both sides of the game. So let's look at a few things around presentation for proposals that will be prize winning, that will be grant winning. I would like to start with the abstract. You know, in many proposals, they may ask for abstract. That's the first thing you want to read. It's important, very important, that the audience must be able to engage with that first page they open. So what do you think will be of most interest to your audience? Identify that and put it in front. So, and then go systematically. What's the problem? What you aim to achieve? Why is it important? Who will do it? When will they do it? And things like that. And lastly, what's the impact that you achieve? So it's important to have good abstract. And there's always the question, so what? What's distinctive? Why is this different from, why should I fund you and not other people? What makes your work more distinctive? So it's important to do that. And in Africa or in Nigeria, we like to write in a very long, indirect way. No, cut out unnecessary detail. Focus on what you want to achieve, and that is what you do. And if they ask for your CV, make sure you put a good CV, because that will also count for you. All right. Let's go to some general tips in terms of practice. Number one, when you are writing, be conscious of the reviewer. Look, the average reviewer is in a hurry. He has so many other things to do. So you must think like and say, look, let me put things up there so that as the reviewer reads it, you understand, you can get onto my idea. It's not struggling to understand what I want to do. So if you think like a reviewer, you are going to ask yourself the question, what exactly do you want to learn from this work? Why is it worth knowing? How are you going to know the conclusion about it? If you think about those answers, then you are thinking like a reviewer, because those are some of the questions the reviewer will ask themselves. And don't let the reviewer think too much about, oh, what does she mean here? How does she? No, put things, be explicit, put things where they are expected to be, so that they are easier to follow, or people find it easier to follow your thoughts in the work. Now, mind your language. Sometimes people will write and they just use technical language. No, it's not proper. Because the person may need to review your work, may not be in your technical field altogether. And so you need to be able to write this, whereas a man who is reasonably a layman can read and understand. Of course, there are technicalities that will only be understood by technical experts, but not everything is technicality. So have a good mix between technical and non-technical issues. Mind your tenses. Be concise and not be redundant. Use strong active words. Active words place the person before the action. That's active. Passive is when you start talking about action first. You say, it was decided by that Charlie would. Why not Abel decided that Charlie would be the one. No, it was decided by Abel that Charlie would do the work. The second one is passive, first one is active. The person who will do the action come first, and then the action that will be done. And then don't write long sentences. I always sometimes people write for me and I write, this is 3 long. You know, somebody is writing one sentence, he's writing 10 lines, 5 lines of a sentence. No, you lose the meaning. Keep it short, and simple. Keys. Keep it short and simple. The simpler the language, the better for you. The shorter, the better. And aim for clarity. You want people to be able to understand what you are writing. And avoid jargons and technical terms that are not explained. Otherwise, your reader may be lost on the way. A couple of other specific writing tips. Don't write something that is too tiny. Sometimes a funder will say, we want a 5-page concept paper. And because somebody wants to write everything in the world, he wants to write 7 pages or 8 pages, and then compress them to size 8, size 9. Nobody has time for such things, so they probably will just throw your proposal aside. So use comfortable size of font and styles that conform with what is prescribed by the funder, if there's a prescription. Write well-linked paragraphs. A paragraph ideally should contain one major idea, but don't let it be too short, the paragraph, so that again it doesn't make your reading burdensome, but rather it makes it easier to follow. And then do clear signposting. Signposting can best be described as specific activities that help your reader to stay online. If I'm reading something that is like one long thing, somewhere along the line you get bored. But if you say, look, there are 5 points why you must do this work. Number 1, number 2, number 3, it helps people to key in as you are writing, or use bullets or headings and bold text, things that will catch people's attention in a specific quiz. They help to stay refreshed when reading. Please pay attention to your references. Be accurate in your references. If you have things that you can draw or put in logical form or you put in a pictorial form, sometimes it may help to understand it better. Use table, use figure, things that will just help the reader to understand. And break up dense text with spaces in between. I like to write paragraph. I don't usually indent my paragraph. I will leave a whole line. That's the kind of spacing I like, because I found that it makes your work look neater and make people to be able to concentrate more. And if you are using acronyms, the first time you use the acronym, write it in full, and then before you start using the acronyms. Again, write clearly and concisely. Look at these two sentences, for example. Somebody wrote this, the first one is like the way in Nigerian will write, or an African will write. And when you see an African on the road, he wants to ask if you'll be available for lunch this afternoon. You will start with, oh, how are you? What of your father, your mother, uncle, your sister? What of your brother? What of your sister? It's not saying, hello, are you available for lunch today? That's our nature. We like to go around, but in writing, you must write more precisely. So let's look at these two examples. Somebody said, when women are asked to participate in the study, they will also be given an informed consent document and asked if they are willing to fill out and sign the informed document. 3 whole lines. Somebody else wrote, women will complete informed consent document upon enrollment. Full stop. The same idea. And look at the second one. It's active. It's simple. It's short. It's direct. And like I said, write actively rather than passively. These are 2 examples. Passive is to say, facility assessment will be conducted. The action is what is taking place first. But active, bring the actor before the action. Research assistants will conduct facility assessment. So, other writing tip, use specific concrete language. Now, these are 2 examples. This is an example to compare. Somebody said, a period of unfavorable weather setting. Thunder, what is it? Somebody wrote and said, it rained every day for a week. Clear, concrete, and specific. It was rain that caused the problem. It was raining every day. And then keep later words together. Put things together in a way that will make it easier to understand. Again, there are 2 examples here. One example says, the spam bag open Friday with the sperm of 100 men frozen in a stainless steel tank. But look at the second example. He said Brazil first sperm bag open with donations from 100 different men. When you say 100 men frozen, it's just not as nicely put together. Look at the other one. It's also broken into two sentences that make for clarity. Brazil's first sperm bag open with donation from 100 different men. The sample was frozen in a stainless steel tank. Clear ideas, putting things that are related together. Your look matter, like I said, break the density of the look. It needs good to your paper needs to look neat. Use same font format where necessary. Adequate line spacing. If you have to describe something complex, I can use visual to make it simpler. Please use visual. It makes things better. And let's conclude on this presentation. A couple of points to take home. Number 1, it takes a lot to write proposals. It takes a lot. If you are waiting to start towards the final period before submission, you are going to write something that's not very good, or you are going to miss the deadline. I can tell you one of the most painful experiences I have had is that you write a proposal, you think you are finalizing it, and you want to submit 5 minutes to the end of the time, or 10 minutes, or 15 minutes, and then the internet now starts rolling, because many people are trying to submit at the last point. You keep on rolling, and then as of the time you get to submit, it's 2 minutes past the deadline, and you get there to say, oh, the submission time has closed. And this is something you work on for weeks. There's nothing more painful many times. So I always tell people, aim to get your proposal ready and submit at least 48 hours prior to submission deadline. So even if you miss that 48 hours, you will still have some time to finalize it well. And you just will not submit in a rush and submit something substandard. And before I go to number 2, People don't understand that it takes a lot to write grants proposal. And look at this. This comes from Esiba. The looking for the call for the funding takes about a quarter of the time. Finding the kind of call you can respond to that fits your kind of work and be appropriate for your stage in life, for your organization, and all that take time. But planning to write take a quarter of the other time. It's not once you plan well, once you plan well, then you can jump into the middle of the game. So a lot of people don't understand that it takes a lot to plan for proposal. And that's why you need to start early so that you can have enough time to do it well. Point number 2, follow the rule. Whatever the funder or prospective funder wants is what you should do. If they tell you about a particular format, follow that format. Don't say, oh, that format is not nice enough. Who are you? You are the one looking for money. They are the one giving the money. They say that's the way what they want. They are saying, no, that's not what they want. Then go and look for money somewhere else. That's what they will tell you. Pay attention to the review criteria. The criteria they are saying they are going to use to judge your work. Make sure that you study it and you are responding to it. Keep the deadline in mind. Whatever method of submission, are they asking you to post it? And you must know this at the beginning. For example, there are proposals I have submitted this year for federal agency, and they will say it must be submitted in Abuja in an envelope. If I finish that work that morning, how am I going to get to Abuja that same day? If I live in Ondo or live in Ife or live in Lagos, except I'm going to send it by airline or by other means. But if I know that this is submitted by electronic means, then I know I have more time. I can even still submit 1 hour to the time. But if I'm living in Lagos and I didn't realize that I have to submit this as hard copy, then I may run into trouble. So keep the method of submission in mind. Be clear about it from the beginning. And if there are questions for many proposals, you can ask your question early enough and they can clarify. Be clear about other stipulations so that you are not missing out anything in terms of stipulation. Remember the golden rule. Those with the most goals makes the rule. In other words, those who have money make the rule. If you don't have money, just follow the rule so that you can get part of the money they want to give out. As some of the common problems in proposal development, the number of problems, questionable logic, diffuse plan, lack of enough detail, unrealistic scope of work, and uncertainty in terms of where you are taking this work. But the greatest reason why most proposals fail is because people fail to read and follow instruction. That's the greatest reason. So you must always follow instruction if you want to get a winning proposal. So my final point is think about it like the reviewer. As they look at your work, think about what would be going through their mind, what would they like to know, and direct their mind. The who, what, where, how are always important in writing a proposal, in getting people to understand your logic. 4 things to think about in trying to win over a reviewer. 1, a cutting-edge work, a work that is not dull. It's something that everybody has done in the world. You want to just repeat it? No. Something that is cutting-edge, something that is new, something that is novel, something that is imaginative. You always get the attention of a reviewer. Clarity. You are writing in a way that you can follow through. Content. You have enough detail to help you understand, and what I'm writing makes sense. It's coherent. It's logical, it's systematic. Those are things that will always help people to get a reviewer to support the work you're doing. Let me acknowledge that part of this presentation has come from different materials I've read from different people, and I want to thank you for your time and attention. Thank you. If there are questions, we'll take the questions now.